Alright, Shalom. Call Halayim La Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachak Wadash. Double honors unto our apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Much peace and blessings to all you sons of Akim out there that's pushing this 100% truth with all sincerity, faith, and with charity. This is your brother Ash from the Great Millstone Miami camp, coming back with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, and Lord willing is edifying. In this lesson, I want to speak on how this truth is only for free thinkers and not parrots, aka simpletons, aka sheeple. Okay, this truth is for free thinkers, which the majority of the men, first and foremost, within our nation, are not. They are not free thinkers. Majority of so-called Negro and Latino Native American men do not have the capability to freely think. And I'm going to explain why. And I'm going to explain how if you don't have that ability, that capability, this truth is really not for you. Okay? And I say the men because women, they don't have the capability. A woman is she's programmed. They're total receivers, you know. They're not meant to freely think. Which majority of our men, they following the damn woman. Monkey see, monkey do. The blind leading the blind, as it says in Isaiah the 3rd chapter. Right, as for my people, which is talking about the Israelite men, children are their oppressors and women rule over them, because the chief oppressor is the so-called white man, Esau Edom, the devil, who rules the world, and he has the power, and he gave power to our women to be up over us. So, you know, our men, they following after the woman, and our woman is following after the so-called white man, the devil, which is just Eve being beguiled by the serpent and coming back and giving that to her man all over again, giving what, you know, she learned from the serpent to her man. Feminism, you know, thinking she's better than the man, over the man, trying to tell him what to do, and, you know. But again, this truth is only for free thinkers, not parrots. And one thing that I'm gonna start this lesson by saying this one thing, you know, which inspired this lesson. I've noticed over the past, you know, something I've been meditating about on and off for some months now, is when you really sit back and look. I'm talking about Jake, I'm talking about our people. This really goes for all the nations, but we're only concerned with our people. And really, the scriptures tell us that our people are stronger and better. The Most High, you know, made us better than the other nations. You know, naturally, Yaikwa, you know, which the Lord changed his name to Yashar Allah. He's a prince of power, talking about our forefather, which that falls on us, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, as well as the Israelites scattered abroad. We excel in everything, right? Jacob is the former of all things. Israel is the lot of his inheritance. The Lord, Jacob is the Lord's portion, roughly paraphrasing. So naturally, we are better than the other nations at you know, we're smarter than the other nations. We're more intelligent. Okay? But, of course, we look around the world right now and look at the state of our people, especially the jakes you come across on a day-to-day basis. The majority of our people, our men, are fucking idiots. Really, they're dumbed down. They're sawdust children, as the scriptures say. Right? Just look around. You look at what Jake is talking about. What a concern with folly. But the thing is, I've been sitting back and I've been meditating. I've been thinking about it. And when you really think about it, it's not that our people are like stupid, like they're really dumb. Like it's which of course, when you actually get into, when you get down to it, a lot of our people, they being raised up by an ostrich, so a lot of time they're not being breastfed, right? You're not being brought up on a decent diet. You just brought up on trash. So a lot of our people, their brains are not really properly developed how they should be, right? Which is true. But which of course that's going to play that's going to manifest itself in real time in negative ways, right? And then on top of that, we're being poisoned from birth. You got the shots, that they make you take when you enter into this world, doing Lord knows what. But when you actually get down to it, get down to the nitty-gritty, our people haven't been taught how to think. That's really our people's problem. They haven't been taught how to properly use their brains. Okay? The brain is a very powerful tool. Okay, the Most High, He created, I'm starting to see, and I truly believe that, especially when it comes to our people, if they was, the average so-called Israelite man, his brain he's intelligent. He has the brain, it's just that our people, they don't know how to use their brain. They don't use their brain. Like I tell my son all the time, use your brain. You have to actually use your brain. Okay, and I'm gonna bring out the scriptures and connect all this spiritually, how this applies to this truth. Okay, because going back to chattel slavery, going back to transatlantic slavery, our people have been systematically broken down on every level, and that includes mentally. Okay, a slave was broken down on such a subtle level that they were under total mind control. It wasn't just, you can have a slave on a chain. You can have somebody on a chain, and you could pull them here, pull them there, whip them, make them do this or that. But if their spirit is still intact, if their mind is still intact, they're still able to freely think, they can escape. They can rebel. Okay? But if you can fully, subvert that person's mind and that person's, that person's spirit ultimately, then you can remove the chains and they won't go anywhere. And Esau learned that very quickly. Okay? So much effort was put in to enslaving the minds of our people, and that is still in play to this day. Okay, of course all our people, they go to school and they learn things. You can't go in this world without learning, right? So they receive information, but they don't know how to properly think. They don't know how to properly formulate original thoughts. An original, truly original thought. The thoughts that our people think, our men, our women, they are given to them. Those thoughts are given to them, and they think that is their thought. But it's not an original thought. It's not something that they came up with. It's something they were programmed to think. Okay? In order to have an original thought, a thought that you actually came up with, you have to know how to actually use your brain, which our people haven't been taught. You have to be taught that. Okay? The main problem with our people is, one of the main problems is, as long as information comes from a certain channel or a certain source, they receive it and uphold it as truth. They let it enter into their brain and they regard it as truth, and it programs them on a subtle level, and that becomes their truth. That becomes, part of their belief system. And as long as it's coming from a certain source, a certain channel, they don't critique it. They are not critical of certain sources. They don't know, and really they don't know how to think critically. And that's the slave mind, which majority of our people, they have to this day, which the scripture tell you, Proverbs the 3rd chapter, envy not the oppressor and choose none of his ways. Which the majority of our people, they're choosing all the ways of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the devil. And they don't question anything he says. Whatever he pushes forth as truth, whether it's through his science, which is now it's all about science, but it used to be all about his religion, which they're done with that and they're moving on towards their science, right? But our people don't question neither of it, because it's coming from the same devil. What just happened, this whole fiasco with the you know what, and all the people dropped their wires because they trust the so-called white man as God. They don't question nothing he says. You see, our people, they don't have the ability to question authority that they perceive as an authority, which they perceive Esau as the highest authority. So whatever he says, it must be true. They don't need evidence. They don't need to look around and actually see if what he's saying, can they actually observe it in reality, or do they see any clues in reality that they can, say, well, maybe it's true. They don't care about that. They don't think about that. None of those processes, which I'm going to go into, which is really, deductive and inductive reasoning, which I'm going to explain, which are two logical processes that go on when you are formulating your own ideas, your own original thoughts, okay? Which you have to be able to do in this truth. Again, I'm going to show you. I'm speaking about Jake in the world as an example, but if you don't have that ability, you can't perform in this truth. Okay? But you got inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, process of elimination, right? Like you have Job 19 and 24. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? That's the Lord is proposing a problem, a conflict, if you will. That's the faces of the judges of the true judges of the earth, faces being covered, them being scratched out or hidden, trying to be suppressed, right? If not, where and who is he? Meaning, somebody who does something like that, who he must be the devil. He must be the wicked of the earth. Now, through the process of elimination, you can deduce or come to the conclusion that it must be the so-called white man. You see, these thinking skills, critical things, Esau don't want you to do that. He don't want you to make patterns and draw connections, and this is spiritual reasoning, you know. It's logical processes that all men should know. We all should know how to think critically, but majority of our men don't. Therefore, they cannot even apply, you know, logic towards spiritual topics. You can't, like Paul said, if I can't tell you a carnal things, how can I tell you a heavenly things? You can't even tell the Jake on a carnal level. They don't even know how to, they just, you know, that destroyed. Right? Look at the so-called white man track record. Look at what he's done to us. Who else did anything worse to us? Who else did anything worse in the earth? He must be the devil. If he's the devil, how can he teach us about God? How can his religion be true? You see, basic questions, basic thinking. As the scriptures say, as his ways are plain unto the holy, right? These things are plain. So you got, I'm going to explain deductive reasoning. You have inductive process of elimination, right? Making patterns, drawing connections, right? This is deductive reasoning. This is deductive reasoning is a logical process that involves starting with general ideas and using them to reach a specific conclusion. Definition: a logical process that uses general ideas or premises to reach a specific conclusion. Also known as top-down reasoning. How it works: you start with premises that are generally accepted facts, ideas, or rules, and use them to reach a conclusion. So you take things that are known or accepted as true to reach, you know, an conclusion, which that conclusion, that should be an original thought. That should be, you know, not something that's given to you, something that you come up with, something that you can come up with yourself, right? Meaning you don't need anyone to tell you that or prove it to you. You can prove it to yourself and to others. Okay? Purpose helps you make decisions and solve problems, which is judgment, discernment, right? Inductive reasoning, and this is the contrast, right? Which I'm gonna read that, right? So, example: if the current in an electrical circuit is directly proportional to the voltage and inversely proportional to the resistance, and the resistance in a circuit is doubled, then the current is cut in half. That's a little, you know, more common. They got simpler examples, right? Deductive reasoning, right? You have the existing theory. An example: all biological life depends on water to exist, right? We all can agree. So you formulate an hypothesis, which that should be your coming from you, right? All land mammals depend on water to exist. So if all biological life need water, that means all land mammals need water, right? We should be able to deduce that. An example would be, it says you have to collect the data next, right? So you study all land mammal species to see if they depend on water. So you actually got to go, you proving it. This step is what skip when it comes to our people. As long as it's coming from the so-called white man, whether it's his his so-called science, his so-called religion, his TV, his media, his movie, anything is, if as long as it's coming from him, they skip right over this step. And they were taught that way from birth. Okay? So you once you analyze the data that you acquire, I mean, you went out and looked, you can see all land mammals species depend on water. Now you know it's true. You see? So it seems simple, it seems basic. Again, they have a little more psychological process that people use to make decisions and solve problems. It's a cognitive function, meaning it's a conscious intellectual activity like thinking and understanding. Which the scriptures speak about, the cogitations, about understanding. These things were given to men by the Lord. But if you're not taught how to use that skill, how can you? So when you come into this truth, again, we all start as parrots, which was a parrot. A parrot is a mockingbird, someone who just receives information and regurgitates. But you got to start actually using your brain. Because if you're just repeating everything you hear, do you really understand what you're saying? No, you don't. So somebody can come into this truth. You can come into this truth and you hear this stuff, the truth, it makes sense to you. You start repeating it. But if somebody asks you to break the scriptures down, explain it, you can't do it. Which means you're a parrot. Right? You have people that's in this truth and they just in it because their friend came in or a family member came in. And they haven't really, took the time out to reason within themselves on is the truth, is what they're being told actual factual, like Jake say. So of course the opposite, which is inductive reasoning, a mental process that involves using observations to draw general conclusions, also known as bottom-up reasoning. Inductive reasoning is often used to make predictions or form theories. It's a primary method in scientific theory development. For example, in a crime investigation, inductive reasoning can be used to determine how the evidence came to be. Here are some examples of inductive reasoning. Making an educated guess, right? Which is a hypothesis. If you come home to find your living room in disarray and your dog has been alone all day, you might conclude that your dog tore up the papers. Generalizing from a sample. You might generalize that 95% of all basketball players are over 6 feet tall if 95% of all the players you see are over 6 feet tall. Making a prediction. You might use past observations to predict what will happen in the future. Identifying patterns. You might look for patterns in, positive business outcomes to inform future efforts. So in this truth, you got to be able to make predictions, right? Like again, with the whole Jabberoonie. Yeah, this guy, General Yohana, tried to use reverse psychology by saying, we'll show you he's the devil he's bought and paid for, by saying, telling his congregation, why would God care if you get a micro C hip, right? Why wouldn't he care? Right? Or let's say he said the so-called white man wants us to be good slaves, so why would he give you something that's gonna hurt you? That's reverse psychology, right? But let's look at the so-called white man's track record. Has he not been poisoning our people and killing our people off? Is he not promoting his fourth industrial revolution with, his technology, his robotics, and his AI, his automation? Is he not cutting the jobs and, automating everything? Is he not already not openly speaking about how they are going to have majority of people be out of work because jobs, regular jobs are going to be made obsolete? Are they not saying these things openly? So what the fuck you talking about? He don't need Jake no more. And look at what he's always done to our people. Look, you know, these making predictions. He's like, you had the black woman. I ain't asking no questions. I ain't doing no research. She literally said, I'm not going to use my brain because it's coming from the so-called white man. I will let him do all the thinking for me because I trust him. And that is the essence of all of our people that are not part of the elect here in Babylon the Great. They think they have the same exact thought process. They don't critique information as long as it's coming from Esau. They just receive it and regurgitate it. Receive it and regurgitate it. Which is that they just program. Meaning the thoughts in their head have been given to them. They haven't formulated those ideas that they hold to see whether they're true or not. To see if they really believe that or not. A lot of people, they say they have these beliefs, and then you start questioning them on their beliefs, and they can't even explain why they believe it. So how is somebody like that going to, be able to last in this truth? You probably receive the truth, just like you receive any other information. You receive it, you regurgitate it, but after a while you fall away because the spirit is not really dealing with you. And so talking to myself first, we have to, like our apostle Elder Tar always says, use your head for something more than a hat rack. That's why we call these guys in IUIC and these other camps, we call them zombies. Okay? Because the same thought process they had in the world, how they receive information from Esau, don't critique it. All right, they receive it and regurgitate it. They came into the truth with that same process, that same exact thought process. They just replaced Esau with Bishop Nathaniel or with General Yohana. Okay? Which the scriptures warn us against that. This is Isaiah, the 1st chapter. Right? I'm going to start with Isaiah, the 1st chapter and the 3rd verse. Salaki, I know it took forever. I don't have many precepts. Right? This is Isaiah, the 1st chapter and the 3rd verse. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know. My people doth not consider. Right? Now, when you go into this word consider, you get bayan, which means to understand. Okay? To discern, understand, consider. To perceive, discern, observe. I mean, you can see it yourself, right? Give heed to. Intelligent, discreet, to cause to understand, to regard, consider diligently. Be cunning, to know. You see that? So that's using your brain. That's, basically, so the Lord is saying, the Lord is clearly saying, my people don't use their brain. They don't use their brain. Even though they have the mind, man, like it says, the scriptures say what? My people, they are wise to do evil, but to do good, they have no knowledge. Meaning they don't use their brain for righteousness. They'll use it. Yeah, they'll use their brain for wickedness. For sure. But they don't use their brain, especially for righteousness. Okay? And of course, when it comes to this truth, we are to be no different. We are to use our brain in this truth as well. You have to use your brain in this truth. You can't replace that thought process of, as long as it's coming from Esau, is true. Because a lot of us haven't been taught in the world how to use our brain. Right? Which really, you using your brain should have led you to this truth. Of course, some brothers just stumble across the truth, but some brothers, they were in the world and they were actually using their brain, and they like, hold up, man, this Christianity shit ain't adding up. You can't be a so-called white man. These pastors gotta be lying, right? It must be, okay, if the Illuminati is true, then there must be, if the left hand is true, there must be a right hand. If the devil is true, then God must be real. These different things, these different thinking processes and patterns led a lot of brothers to seek out the truth. They got a majority of our people, they don't think like that, so they don't even seek for truth. They are given Christianity, and they're born with that, and they die with that. They never question it, because they don't question shit. They don't use their brain. And you have a lot of us that you start questioning stuff, and that led you to the truth. And you have a lot of people that started questioning stuff, but once they got the IUIC, they stopped right there and listen to whatever Bishop Nate said. All right, and even if you come across Great Millstone, right, which are the true men of the Lord, if you just replace Esau with Apostle Tahar, and you just take everything he says, that means you're going to be getting truth, right? You're going to be getting truth, but it's not, you don't really understand it. It's not really profiting you, because let's say if something was said that's wrong, you like Apostle Tahar says, if he says Esau can make it, people just, a lot of guys just don't go with it. Which, even if he never says nothing off like that, the angels know, the Lord know, you don't really understand what's being told to you, which eventually you'll fall away, because you're not really getting the truth for yourself. Your heart is not really in it for the right reason, because if it was, you would prove everything that's said to yourself. Okay? And that's exactly what the Church of Berea did. And the Apostle Paul commended them on that. He didn't say they was off or wrong. Just believe whatever I say. If I tell you something, you ain't supposed to double check it. You supposed to just believe it, brother. Nah, Apostle Paul wasn't on that. This is the book of Acts, the 17th chapter, and the 10th verse. Lord will off with this. And the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that, or because, they received the word with all readiness of mind, and searched the scriptures daily whether those things were so. So because they did not just believe Paul without double checking it, because they double checked them, Paul commended them. Because they, didn't just take it. They didn't just receive it and started regurgitating. They actually went back to see if Paul was telling the truth. So they had critical thinking skills. They actually could formulate their own thoughts. They weren't just parrots. Which again, you come into this truth on the level of a parrot, but you're not to stay at a parrot. You have to be able to go precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little, and be able to form your own conclusions on the scriptures that you can prove, that you can go back to, teach others. Not saying you add into the word or add into the doctrine, but, if you got brothers that bring out things and videos, little details, and bringing out things that apostles never brought out. And the apostles here, I'm like, yep, he's right on that. How are they able to do that? Because they're freely thinking. They're freely using their brain. And the Spirit is working with them so that they can edify and teach and bring out, things old and new, as the scriptures say. But if you're just a parrot, you can't, you're not really being, you can't do that, which shows that you're not really alive in the Spirit. The Spirit not really working. You have the appearance, but deep down inside, the Spirit is not really working with you. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. I know it was a little long-winded and drawn out, but I hope it was edifying. With that, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. Until the next one, Shalom.